Thank you very much, and welcome back to Race Industry Week 2023. RJ Till is with us, Brad Giddy is with us. You guys carry on.
And awesome. RJ, I'm very excited. This is your first time joining us, so welcome.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me on.
Awesome. Thank you, Francis. Thank you, Judy. We appreciate it. RJ, excited to spend some time chatting with you about the World Racing League and appreciate the opportunity to do this. So I want to start just by saying on your website, World Racing League's goal is to provide a highly competitive, professional level racing experience on an amateur racing budget without compromise. So tell us what that means.
So, World Racing League, our goal has always been to provide a professional racing experience. Our business, both in World Racing League and then also our professional racing business, ACI Motorsports, that races in SRO and IMSA, have a lot of experience at the professional level. We also have a lot of experience, the management in amateur racing. So what we sought to bring was kind of a mix of both, where competition is very high, the level of performance balancing is very high, our standards of driving are high, but we do bring the barrier of entry down to get into the series. We also try to control costs with things like 200 treadwear tires, for example, are a requirement. So many of these cars will do an entire 8-hour race on a single set of tires. And just by trying to engage partners and sponsors to help control costs for everybody.
That's a wonderful thing. Well, let's talk about where you are in the season right now. And speaking to you from the Lone Star State, I know a lot of people in Texas are pretty excited about a visit to Circuit of the Americas coming up.
Yeah, that's right. So the final round of our 13 event season this year is at Circuit of the Americas. So that's our national championship race. We'll have 2 8-hour races, then practice and qualifying on Friday for us here. So that's a big one for us. We've got 88 cars registered right now for those 16 hours of racing.
That's very exciting. Also, if you're tuned in right now, I do want to remind you and let you know that you can always type a question into the chat, and we'll certainly get to as many of those as we can. But pretty exciting what the World Racing League has going on, because we mentioned Circuit of the Americas, but like you said, that's just one of your 13 race schedule. The road courses that y'all are visiting throughout the year, and your 2024 schedule is already out. These are the premier motorsports facilities here in the United States, and everywhere from Road America to Daytona, Road Atlanta, Watkins Glen, and so on. So let's talk about your schedule and some of these tracks in which the series competes.
Yeah, so that's been, that's another big part of the professional racing experience. We want to take people where they're going to be racing as they move up the ladder, or if they decide that, WRL is their home. But yeah, we're going to start the year off at Eagles Canyon Raceway next year. That's a new track a lot of people are excited about, but more of a club level facility. Then on to, your Barber, Mid-Ohio, Road America, as you mentioned, added Charlotte this year. So that is actually confirmed. You heard it here first. So we will be going to Charlotte, also Watkins Glen, Sebring, Coda. So anywhere that you see on TV just about is covered. We do cover some other parts of the country. Colorado, we go to High Plains Raceway, which is an excellent facility. Keeps us a little bit further west so we can support all of our customers out that way.
Oh, that's really cool. And what a great announcement as well, by the way. I think that's pretty awesome. So we're looking forward to that. I want to dive into the chat because we do have a question that came here early. RJ, you mentioned performance balancing. How does performance balancing work? How do drivers get involved, and how do you control cost?
Yeah, so performance balancing, and I was listening earlier this morning talking about BOP can be a 4-letter word. But we do everything with us is based on power to weight. So our entire rule book is built around the weight of the car and then dyno jet horsepower. We keep a dyno jet on site that's accessible to all of our competitors throughout the weekend to verify on our dyno. Obviously, our scales are the ones that are going to matter. But what we found is that controlling the power to weight and then adjusting that power to weight with modifiers for things like aerodynamics, suspension, forced induction, all the things that we've found through our data collection that contribute to performance are considered and then go into those modifiers. So for example, if you're running a bunch of aerodynamic devices or some really fancy, triple 4-way adjustable shocks, those things are going to be accounted for in the modifier table, especially in our general production class, which there are general production 1 through 3, which are going to be Porsche Caymans, E46, BMW M3s, a lot of the club racing cars you'd be familiar with from your typical club racing events. And then the GTO class that sits above that, and GTU, are going to be our Grand Touring class that welcomes anything from, we've had previous generation NASCAR Cup chassis out there, Ginettas, all your GT4 cars, V8, E46 M3s. But again, all of these things are balanced with just horsepower, weight, and then those modifiers. And what we find is we'll have, a 25-year-old BMW with an LS swap racing a brand new Toyota Supra GT4, and finishing within seconds of each other after 8 hours. So the performance balancing, we really believe in it. We believe enforcement and consistent enforcement is super important. And what that's yielded for us has been a really competitive series.
Yeah, and that's great because look, if you're going out there and competing, everyone wants a chance to be competitive, and that's a great thing. And you even mentioned some of the different cars. It's been pretty awesome. We were talking with Steve Phelps from NASCAR earlier, but heck, we've had Cup teams actually participate in your series as well to start getting some more road course skills. But these are mixed in with, like you mentioned, amateur racers and everybody. So what a great opportunity to not only see people who are doing this for a living, at the top of their game, but also people who are amateurs and being able to just be racers together, be it on or off the track, right?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I've used this analogy quite a bit, but the best soccer player in the world, there's a lot of soccer balls in the world. It's a very accessible sport. Racing's a little bit less accessible, obviously. But we try to make it as accessible as possible to anybody who is qualified and has the relevant experience. And we want to give everybody an equal playing field where they can go wheel to wheel with these professional drivers. And in many cases, what we've seen, especially through the amount of seat time that we're able to offer in an endurance format, is that a lot of these amateur drivers are elevating themselves to the professional level, whether they stay and race with World Racing League or if they do move up. They're more than capable of competing with those people who, are out there racing, for paychecks every weekend.
RJ, here on ePart Trade, we talk to a lot of different people, from competitors to suppliers to buyers and all of those other things. I want to talk about the competitor side of it first of all. If I'm interested in getting into WRL, what do I need? Do I need to come with my own car? And if so, is the rulebook easily accessible? How hard would it be to join a team, or are there teams out there who are letting me put myself in a seat? How does all of that work?
Yeah, I think you pretty much touched on all of it. But yeah, so our rule book is extremely concise. That's another benefit of the power to weight based classing. So it's sub 20 pages cover to cover. So if you're interested in World Racing League, highly recommend that you take a look at that. But as far as how you get into it, on the as an individual, you can either come with a racing license from your SCCA, NASA, NASCAR, IMSA, FIA. Those are all accepted and transfer over as long as you're in good standing with that organization. And then additionally, we do, again, we talk about accessibility a lot. We do accept people that are coming from, HPDE if they've been doing it for many years and they are, in an advanced solo status. They'll be able to come on in a probationary status, be on watch, have to participate in the test day, meet all of our requirements, and then that's another way for them to get in. So we do buck the trend, some of the conventional licensing methods, as we do have other ways. Also, if you're coming out of something like Champ Car or another endurance racing series, we make it really easy for you to come in. Again, those people are on watch. It is a pretty laborious process to get approved, but it is another one of those ways that we control costs and help bring people in without forcing them into a schooler situation where they may already have more than enough seat time and awareness to do really well in endurance racing and continue to develop. As far as getting into a car goes, there's a couple of ways you can go about that, but what you mentioned, I highly recommend. Quite a few teams out there that offer rental seats, so you can show up, cars ready to go. A lot of them will provide you with food and everything else. So it's, arrive and drive is kind of super popular within World Racing League. So I actually highly recommend, if you're interested in getting into World Racing League, running a car yourself, that's a great place to start, just to see how one of these operations works, what tools you need, all of that stuff. If you are very familiar with if you've been sprint racing another chassis, or if you own a shop that takes care of a particular make or model, probably makes sense for you guys to come in right away with one of those cars that you're familiar with. But again, it still doesn't hurt to get that experience of running with a rental team, and there's quite a few out there. And if you go to our World Racing League WRL Racers group on Facebook, if you're interested, lots of teams advertising seats for rent there.
You know, when you talk about cost containment too, I think another thing that is really appealing about the World Racing League, a no contact culture. Tell us what that means.
Yeah, so obviously, anytime you put cars on a racetrack, things can and do happen, but we are very strict when it comes to contact. We're very consistent with the messaging, and we hold everybody to a really high standard of conduct. You're out there racing for 8 hours, sometimes 14 hours, and then even 24 hours we've done in the past, and we may do again in the future. But there's no reason to put yourself, your equipment, your other teammates' time, and of course the other teams that are on the track at risk unnecessarily, especially early in the race. So something that we've seen is that we've had to really crack down on that, take a really firm stance. But I think we've been kind of leading the industry in the way that we've been handling contact, being extremely strict, kind of regardless of where you come from. Because those drivers that are coming from professional series, they're going to have to adjust a little bit, because we don't allow, rubbing. Rubbing is not racing with World Racing League. We want the cars to arrive and leave the way that they came. It's a safety thing. It's a performance thing. And ultimately it comes back to, cost containment, because nothing's more expensive than, a car sitting in the garage that's not on the track running.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's very true. From the chat, RJ, you mentioned a desire to come further west so teams from California don't have to haul so far. Do you have any updates on plans for some of the great West Coast tracks?
Yeah, so it's certainly been on our radar. Anybody who's raced with us from the West Coast, it's always asked, and I'm always super transparent with it. 2021, 2022 were huge years for the race industry in general. A lot of growth. Just about everybody I've talked to, 23, things pulled back just a little bit. So we're kind of waiting for the right time to make the move out there, but it's absolutely on our radar. Also, just building a schedule, especially with the big tracks that we're going to, it's extremely difficult, because a lot of them are very rigid, and trying to keep at least 3 to 4 weeks between events, because again, we do want this to be sustainable for not only the professional teams who have a couple people working on the car all the time, but also the people that are working in their garage, because that ultimately probably is 60% or more of our competitors, keeping everything spaced out. So yeah, it's just a real challenge. Going to the West Coast is something we're definitely interested in, and anybody who is interested in us going to the West Coast, please send us an email. Let us know where you'd like us to go, what you'd like to see. We're very eager to get more feedback on that.
Yeah, by the way, Jennifer Long said we'd love to have WRL run at Utah Motorsports campus. So how would we go about getting a contract with WRL?
Yeah, again, just definitely reach out to Race at Race WRL. That goes straight to me. There's only 2 of us full time, so you'll either get myself or JC. But yeah, shoot me an email. We'd be happy to talk about it. And I think this is a perfect time to start talking about 2025.
Oh, yeah. See, this is great. This is what ePart Trade's all about, bringing people together. On the supplier side of things, there are a lot of great parts vendors out there, and you have a lot of great customers out there racing with you as well. So let's talk about that side of it. When it comes to the competition, being able to supply all these racers, if I am either a vendor, a distributor, something like that, or maybe I'm actually a supplier, someone who feels like what my product is going to fit what your racing series is as well. Can you tell us about people involved with you, or how to get involved?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, just keep spitting it out there, but feel free to reach us by email. That's going to be the best way to get in touch. But yeah, I think we have an excellent platform, especially for anybody who is, in the industry, to promote their products and services. One of the biggest things with World Racing League is even 94 cars or 90 cars at Circuit of the Americas is a big number, but remembering that those teams are comprised of anywhere from 3 to 5 drivers, subtly that number really grows quickly. So we've all of the partners that we've had to this point have found a lot of success in working with us. I think one of the big things is a lot of these people do take those relationships they build within the World Racing League and take them to the other series they participate in, which is one of the really interesting things about endurance racing. Is a lot of these people have their own sprint racing cars or race in another series, and then come together with their group of friends to form a team to race in the World Racing League. So the amount of reach that we have outside of just WRL is pretty significant, and we've definitely seen quite a bit of conversion there as well.
Yeah, and with a variety of classes of cars, again, you talked about racing the Porsche Cayman and so on and so forth on up. Another thing that's talked about in today's world as well is electrification. Does that fit into the WRL at this point?
So it's funny you bring that up. We've talked about it quite a bit. I think there would be some opportunity to do something within a World Racing League weekend, especially if that becomes more popular as time goes on. But for right now, we're going to stick with kind of the internal combustion. I think the electrification presents a lot of really interesting challenges that we would love to be host to. I think it's going to reinvigorate kind of what racing was at the beginning, where it was, not about setting distance records, but just finishing, and finishing without issues. So I think that's something that especially in terms of endurance racing is going to be extremely interesting once that begins to come to fruition, and we're absolutely interested in being part of it.
Yeah, that's really cool. Again, what you have to offer now and what the future might be able to hold. Let's say I'm interested, or I have someone who is interested. I want to bring them out to the racetrack, introduce someone to World Racing League, and be it on the spectator side or maybe kind of showing someone around. I wanted to go to Circuit of the Americas coming up this weekend. What do you encourage people to do? What's out there and what's available for someone to come check it out, either from either side of the fence, let's say?
Yeah, so for Circuit of the Americas presents a couple of challenges for us. We are actually just had a big one of our largest spectator events so far at Sebring. We were two of the major spectator events for Road Atlanta this year. Looking to add Daytona and a couple more to that. But COTA, they do have some challenges because they have some Christmas events that go on during our event. So we're not able to host spectators. But if you're in the industry, if you're in the area and you'd like to come out, again, just shoot us an email, reach out directly, and we'd be happy to get you in. It's a super event, lots of access, obviously, at COTA. As much as we'd love to offer spectators, it's something that we have actually pitched them on because they do this big Christmas light spectacle. I've said for a long time, I think it would be excellent to race at night under the lights with the Christmas lights all around. I mean, as the last race of the year, but yeah, still working on that one.
I say I would love to see something like that happen. That would actually be pretty amazing to see you guys be able to pull something like that off. And again, when it comes to the whole culture and everything, look, there are people who might start in this class and you have 5 classes of cars out there. Maybe I want to graduate to the next class. What's the culture within the competition side of WRL as far as, hey, I've raced this car. I'm ready to pass it on to the next person, but I'm ready to jump into this car over here. What's that like out there in the paddock?
Yeah, we've seen a lot of that, and interestingly, we've seen it kind of go both directions. So both drivers and teams that have raced GTO, which I would call obviously our fastest class, have moved into or jump in and out of general production cars. I think that's as a driver, that's of huge value to drive different cars, especially across the same weekend and in similar conditions. That's something that can work to your advantage. But race car drivers are generally, aspirational, hardworking people. So we've seen a lot of people start out, bringing their car, especially in the earlier days, out of a series like 24 Hours of Lemons or something like that, and then progressing and moving up and being competitive. And I think the stepping stone of moving from the general production classes, where you could race something like an NC MX5 Cup car, for example, in GP3 or an E46 330 CI, something like that's going to start you out a little bit slower, and then progress throughout the World Racing League all the way up to what I would say is in our GTO class, the GT4 cars racing there at about probably 85% of their pace in the Pro Series because of the tire and some of the power reductions. So we do kind of have something for just about everyone, and I do highly recommend that people start slower first if they have the opportunity. Working 3 pedals and understanding how the driveline plays into vehicle dynamics is something I think that I'm afraid that we might lose, but I think is very important.
Yeah, that's interesting. You had mentioned earlier, RJ, talking about the race cars and making sure everyone is on a level competitive playing field within their class, and from aerodynamic enhancements to different things like that. And you had talked about well researched in what you do. How did you come up with some of those things? If my car is too fast and I need to temper it down a little bit to be competitive with everyone else in my class, how do you come up with those things?
So we collect a ton of data. We have these what we call black boxes, which are essentially AIM data boxes that are running some custom software on the back end that we use to do a lot of different overlays. Obviously, all these cars fill out at the beginning of the year what they call a disclosure worksheet that goes into our digital logbook system. And we're able to really quickly look, compare the data that we collect to what these cars are declaring, because unlike something like a GT4 series or something where they have everything is homologated and they're running the same parts, we may have a V8 Miata or a V8 E46 M3 where there's not going to be a playbook for how do you balance the performance of this car? Do we need to take 2 degrees of wing out? And we don't necessarily want to be that. We like the creativity aspect. I think it absolutely has its place with conventional BOP, but we've just found this this different method. But everything that we do is data driven. For example, all of our fuel in the GT classes is based off of horsepower. That was all done just by analyzing, stint lengths, run times, and then adjusting it. And we try to make very small adjustments. And again, when you drive everything with data, it's allowed us to get to the point where, year over year rule stability is very high. Very few changes are required, but we do have, things are constantly emerging. These, direct injected turbo motors make power very differently than a naturally aspirated motor does. In our GP classes, people are starting to utilize these ZF 8-speed automatic transmissions that they're taking out of more modern BMWs and putting those even in Miatas, which makes those cars more accessible still. But we have to consider the performance advantages of something like that. That's both its potential and what it's capable of doing right now, because these things are kind of emerging. So tracking that, for me has always been a lot of fun. That's something that I enjoy doing when it comes to the rules and stuff. And ultimately competitor feedback, coupled with that data that we bring in is what drives most of the changes, and I think has led to what we have now, which is very competitive.
That is actually really incredible. And I cannot imagine what it's like to officiate, especially from a tech side of things, such a variety of race cars. But I also look at it as a huge appeal as a racer to be able to be introduced to such a variety of things out there as well with other race cars.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's been a ton of fun. We enjoy getting to do it. We've been consistently impressed with what people bring out. The level that people have raised them to every year. That competition gets tougher and tougher, and we see more and more teams kind of rise to the occasion. And that's what ultimately is what makes it so fun for us to do.
Well, I'll tell you what, RJ, World Racing League, you guys have put together an incredible schedule, an incredibly competitive series where people get to race on some of the most amazing racetracks throughout our country. And we thank you for giving us time here today. And heck, look forward to a big weekend down in Austin.
Yeah, absolutely. Check it out on our YouTube channel. We'll be live streaming the whole thing. So 16 hours of coverage if you're looking for something to do this weekend. That's YouTube/Race WRL.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Francis.
Registering on ePartrade is easy. To start, click on the Join for Free button on the homepage. First, search your company to see if it's already in our database. If you see your company on the list, click on it to select it. Then, choose Claim Company if you are one of the decision makers, an owner, marketing person, or main company contact. Or choose Join Company if you are an employee, and press Continue. If you couldn't find your company in our database, select Register a New Company. On the following page, fill out your name, email, phone number, job title, and choose a secure password. If you chose Register a New Company, you'll need to choose your business type. Select Supplier if you're looking to display products or services and connect with buyers. Choose Racing Business if you're looking to source new parts and connect with suppliers. Choose Race Team if you own or are a member of a professional race team. Then, enter your company name. Please provide a website, Facebook page, or LinkedIn if you have one, and choose to either claim or join the company. You can view and agree to our terms of use here. If you'd like to receive our weekly newsletter, choose Accept. Finally, click Register Now and your registration will be submitted for approval. An email will be sent to your inbox. Please confirm your email address and you will be approved shortly. Welcome to eParTrade.